Hi everybody, I'm Sandy Sappington and I'm here with Constance Schneider, the president of SGA. So we're just going to talk a little bit and ask a couple questions. So tell me about yourself, like what's your major, where are you from, how did you decide to be president of SGA, like decide to run for it?
So I'm a psychology major, so I'm industrial organizational psychology, which focuses more on the business side of things. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. I came here, I'm a senior this year, so I came here as a freshman. And I was the student body president at my high school. And it was actually a very bad experience for me.
Oh, wow.
There's a lot going on with the administration of my high school, and just like a lot of stuff happened. And so I came here and I just thought to myself, I can't put myself under that kind of pressure again. I don't want that kind of position again because it was just so bad for me in high school. And so I told myself I'm not joining SGA. I was like very firm in it. I said, I'm not going to join SGA. I'm not going to do that again. I just want to live like a normal, carefree life.
Yeah.
And then I remember one of the first weeks of my freshman year, I passed the SGA tent at the block party, and they convinced me to sign up. And I was like, okay, fine. I guess I'll join the House of Delegates. It's like not going to be a big deal. And I fell in love. Like the first meeting, it was just so fun because I felt like I was actually a part of something that was bigger than myself. Mm-hmm. So SGA, what kind of how it works is students can write down ideas in the format of a bill or a piece of legislation, and the bill passes through SG and it gets put on Dr. Hines' desk, and then it gets put on the president's desk, and then it becomes a reality. Mm-hmm. So for example, one that we just passed was filtered water fountains in the circle. And so, that was an idea, and then a student wrote the bill, and then it got onto my desk, and then I put it on Dr. Hines' desk, and then put it on Dr. Prio's desk, and now it's a reality. So like little changes like that. But for me as a freshman, I was just like over the moon excited that we could do stuff like that. So I wrote a bill for free laundry, I remember, and it never got passed, but I still, maybe I'm hoping somebody will write a bill kind of like that, but I just remember like I put myself out there and it was so fun, it was so rewarding, and that's kind of like a big reason why I'm here today is because my experience freshman year was so fun. It was not what I thought it would be, but it was definitely like a growing experience. I was challenged. I was forced to be kind of like professional, when you present your bill to a house of 200 people and they start questioning you on the specifics, you kind of have to know what you're talking about. So I was very challenged in that. And so just my experience in SGA, like I helped out with a few student body campaigns. Last year I was the director of community relations, so I partnered with LU Serve a lot in the community of Lynchburg. And I even took a break from SGA my sophomore year. So I feel like I've had a pretty good experience like inside and outside of SGA, seeing what it both like what it does and what the students perceive that it does. So I've had a cool experience with SGA, but the reason why I'm here today is because I don't know, I just felt very like my gifts could be used in a bigger way. Like I was saying before, like I felt like this is something that's bigger than myself, and I was completely right. It's been a great experience.
Oh wow, that's awesome. Mm-hmm. So then take me through like from last year to this year. What was kind of your process in thinking like, oh, maybe I should run for president?
Yeah. So I kind of, the same kind of reluctance I felt around this time not this time, around like summer of 2019, I think. Yeah, 2019. So I was, people have always told me, you should run for student body president, you should run for this, you should run for that. And my response has always been, if I don't think I'm the best equipped for the job, I'm not going to run, or I'm not going to put myself out there because it's not worth it, in my opinion, to hold a position when I know there's like 5 other people that would do a better job than me. It's a waste of time, and it's just not it's not beneficial for anyone. And so that's kind of what's held me from running for anything up until this point. But I remember last year in the fall, a few people reached out to me and they're like, hey, you should run for student body president. And I thought about that since freshman year, but in my mind it was too audacious of a goal, and I didn't really honestly have the confidence to do that. And so I remember telling them like, I'm not sure. And then they suggested, they're like, what if you ran with Joel? And Joel has been my best friend since freshman year. And like I had all this like anxiety when I thought about running, but then when they mentioned his name, like I just felt like so much peace about it. And I felt, in my mind I was like, well, I could do it if I had him by my side because we work so well together. He's such a wise voice and a wise advisor in my life. And so for some reason, just like I felt very calm and confident. And I thought to myself, I could do this with Joel. And then, when Joel and I were talking about it, we thought, 2020 is going to be a very contentious year. We didn't know anything would happen with coronavirus or Liberty. We just knew like the elections were happening. And so we thought, in my mind, it went back to the best equipped for the position. I was thinking like, what kind of student would be able to lead the student body peacefully throughout this time? and in a way that isn't focusing on the politics of the world, but in just the goodness of our school and the positivity that we have here on campus. And so we talked about it, and we thought, we would love to be in that position during this time just to maintain peace, and just to be peacemakers on campus and to make sure that students kind of, they see their experience at Liberty as more than just something that's political. So that's kind of another reason why we ran, and we honestly did not expect anything that has happened in 2020 to happen. And so we've grown so much throughout the process.
Wow, that's awesome. So did you have to convince Joel to run, or was he just kind of up for it?
I think it came as a surprise to him. For me, it's something, like I mentioned before, I've thought about since freshman year, but I never had the courage or the confidence to really fully imagine myself in that position. To me, it was too big of an ask. But Joel and I prayed about it, and we talked about it. We talked through it. We talked through what our platform would be. We talked through what it would look like with our schedule senior year. I mean, he's a pre-med student, so he's not. I guess biomed. So he has a busy schedule already, and so taking this kind of a role on would have been a huge step for him, and it was. But he's managed to do it very, very well. But yeah, he was on board. We prayed about it. We felt peace about it. We talked it through, and we just realized maybe it's time for a challenge. Maybe it's time to step into something bigger than ourselves. So,
wow, that's really great. And then, speaking of challenges, what have been some of the biggest challenges this year with coronavirus and with maybe the elections that you guys have had to conquer, and kind of what have you done with those?
Yeah, well, surprisingly, the elections weren't the worst part of this year.
Oh, yeah.
We came into this year thinking, there's going to be a lot of contention, a lot of strife, a lot of division within the student body, and I haven't seen much of that at all. It's mainly been, I think 2020 has presented so many challenges, like a global pandemic and like a transition leadership here at Liberty. There's so much uncertainty, there's so much anxiety, and I feel like even in the beginning of the school year, I remember very clearly a lot of students were just confused and concerned and anxious, and there wasn't much information, there wasn't much to be said. And so during that time, that was one of the biggest challenges for us, was we were meeting with a lot of administrators during that time, first week of school. And that's also when we went through the transition leadership as a school too. And so that was a really challenging time, just to make sure that students were comforted, knowing that, we are going through a lot of challenges as a school, but it's going to be okay because we have the Lord on our side. And as a school, one thing that I think everybody can agree on is that Liberty has one of the best communities out of any school. I know when I came here, I just remember being so surprised that people would be so nice. And so, everyone's hugging each other and everyone's wanting to hang out. And so I know that's one thing that we have as a school. So really emphasizing that and pushing that this year and saying, look, I know we're going through a tough time. I know there's a lot of challenges this year. But if any student body can get through this, it's going to be Liberty, because we already have that kind of kinship and we already have that kind of family feeling to us as a school. Even among professors and students and faculty and staff, I've never seen more equipped and more just caring and kind and compassionate faculty and staff. I know my personal professors are just pray before every class, taking prayer requests, just very student oriented. And I know that's just kind of the norm across the board. So I knew that if any school could get through it, we can. And it's been a really, really challenging year. But I think as students, we've really gotten through it. We've really kind of toughened up, and I'm really proud of us.
That's awesome. So what would you say is the process, I guess, because I know some students probably feel kind of disconnected because they don't exactly know what the process is when they're trying to get a bill passed or something. So what is the process, and how can a student who isn't involved in SGA or wants to be involved, how can they kind of try to make their difference that way?
Yeah. Well, I would say, first of all, join SGA, because we always accept people from different majors, different disciplines. Our house, it used to be around 200. We still have a big number in, but we would love to diversify it and add more majors, add more students from different parts of campus. And so we're really trying to emphasize, it doesn't matter if you're a comms major, if you're an art major, a music major, a biomed major, a psych major, you can join and still make a really big difference. And we want to emphasize that just to students that don't think that they fit that mold, because they do, because they're students here.
Yeah.
And so I feel the first step is just, if you want to get involved, because we're always open and we're always willing to accept new people. And the second step is, I guess, the process of writing a bill and having it become something on campus is, if you don't want to join SGA, you must contact somebody in the House of Delegates or in the Senate to write a bill for an idea that you have. But also what we've been working on this year is we're surveying students. So we have data and metrics tools where we can actually table and measure student opinion on certain issues. So right now, for example, Yeah, it's really cool. Right now, we're surveying students on the new dining hall. So construction and LU Dining reached out to us, and they said, here's like 5 questions we want to know the answers for, because we want to know what students think about them. And so we took those 5 questions, we put them into a survey format, and now we're sending it out, and we're tabling, and we're encouraging students to take this survey. But basically, they're just questions like, do you prefer booths or tables? Or, how important is outdoor seating? Or what kind of style of, structure do you want inside the new dining hall? And so just questions like that, we can put into survey format and get actual student opinion, and then hand that back to dining, and they'll actually probably do it based on student opinion. So that's one way we can kind of like gauge what students think about things. But when there's a student that has a specific idea that they want to see come into fruition, I would say talk to a legislator, so a House of Delegates member or Senate member, give them your idea, they'll work with you on writing a bill. And basically the bills have like different clauses, and you give like a defense and examples of your argument, and then you give conclusions. So for the filtered water fountain one, it's, whereas students on the circle use the water fountains, every other place on campus has filtered water fountains, be it resolved that students would like a filtered water fountain in the circle. That's just a super vague, probably not what the bill actually said, just an example of it. And so somebody would write that bill, it would pass through the House of Delegates, they'd all vote on it, and then the Senate would all vote on it, and then it gets put on my desk as student body president. And I go through, I make sure there's no typos, no errors, I make sure the reasoning is solid, I make sure it's a really good bill, and then I sign it, or I veto it. If I veto it, it goes back through, and they can rewrite it. But if I sign it, I present it as is to Dr. Hine, and then Dr. Hine and I talk about it. So I'll kind of, I like to talk to the delegates and the people that have these ideas before I talk to Dr. Hine, because I'm able to give the best argument to Dr. Hine, so he understands the complete reasoning behind every bill. So when I do talk to Dr. Hine, we kind of go through the pros and cons of the bill, and then he's like, sure, I'll take it to whoever I know that's in charge of this, and we'll see if we can get it done. And then if he signs it, then it gets put on Dr. Prevo's desk after he does that, talking to the other administrators, talking to the people in charge. For like the water fountains, I think it might have been like facilities, or in residential life, and then talking to them and getting their approval. And then it gets put on Dr. Prevo's desk, and he signs off if he thinks it's a great idea. So that's kind of the process of how those things become like a law. That's what we like to say, how a bill becomes a law. But honestly, like any idea can become a reality if students, if they see a problem on campus, they want to change it, we'll work with them to get that done.
So how long does that whole process take, would you say?
It depends. If it's it depends honestly on how many bills are like going through SGA, how busy everyone is, how busy the semester is. But if it's a really solid idea, I'll give you one that's coming up actually. For example, one of our class officers, actually, our junior class vice president, she noticed that there's glass paneling on the sides of the stairwells in the library and in DeMoss. And when girls wear dresses, you can actually like see up dresses if they're not careful. And so she noticed that, and she's like, we should just have like a faded glass, like a filament, so that doesn't happen, and girls aren't uncomfortable, and it's just like safer for everyone. It's more comfortable for everyone. And so she wrote the bill, and it passed like super fast through the House, through the Senate, and it got on my desk, and like the first thing I'm doing is signing that bill, because I love that idea. I think it's a great and creative way to attack an issue on campus. And so that like went by super fast, because it's a great idea. It's rock solid. There's nothing you can really
solid
say.
Reasoning.
Like what are you going to say about that? Like, no, keep it. That's weird. That's weird. And so, I'm going to present to Dr. Hine and be like, hey, look, Dr. Hine, like we all love this idea. Like, let's get this done. And hopefully, fingers crossed. I mean, I see him on Tuesday. He'll say, yeah, sure. We pass it to Dr. Prevo, and it'll become something that happens.
That's a great idea. That's definitely really smart. That's awesome.
So if it's a really good bill like that, it'll go through super fast. But if it's one that requires a lot more like work on it, or if it's a very complicated idea, or if it's asking a lot of like budgetary, a lot of money or a lot of this or that, it'll probably take a while, because it will go back and forth through the houses. I'll see it, and maybe I'll see a clause that I don't like, and I'll send it back, and they'll change it, then I'll sign it. So that takes a little bit longer if it's more complicated or a more controversial issue. But something like that idea, like, there's like everyone loves that idea. It goes straight through.
Pretty straight through,
Wow, so it took about, I would say, like a month to get through the House, and then the Senate, and then my desk, and then Dr. Hine.
Which
is relatively fast.
Pretty fast. So then with coronavirus, do you guys have anything specific in mind for next semester as far as procedures, like anything different than from this semester?
Yeah, so we're actually filming a Q&A video with Dr. Anderson soon on Tuesday to ask him questions like that. But from what we've kind of gained, and from what we've already learned from him, is the procedures are going to be pretty similar. There might be a few changes, like with scheduling, just because we're not going to have a spring break. We're going to have that 2-week quarantine before coming into the semester. And all of that is just to make sure that at Liberty, we're safe coming into the semester. Because this past semester, we didn't have that. And we did see a spike in cases at the very beginning. And so I guess even right now, like where we're at on campus, we have a very low case count. So if we come into the semester with a low case count, it's most likely that we'll be able to maintain that and control the virus on campus.
Yeah, it's been pretty good the past couple months. You guys have updates, right, every week about the number of cases and everything, and they've been pretty low for the most part.
They've been crazy low.
Yeah,
it's like
awesome.
We went from like 80-something to like 30. It was crazy.
Yeah.
And a big methodology behind that is that we over-quarantine. And I know it's like annoying and it's inconvenient for students to just like sit at home or go to a specific dorm and quarantine for 2 weeks. But that's really the reason why like our case counts are so low, and also mask wearing too. So wearing masks inside academic buildings, like no large gatherings, we can't have concerts anymore, unfortunately, but we can like socially distance and wear masks. And if we do all that right, we'll be able to maintain a low spread. But also I think a big reason why the case count is low is because people are quarantining. And so if there's any potential you might even have the virus, just to be cautious, stay at home for 2 weeks, and then like that kind of is where the virus stops for that one person. And so they're not going to spread it to another 10 people. So that's been a really good way that we've been able to stop the virus this semester. Next semester, I expect it'll be just the same. Any major changes? I don't think so. But again, we'd have to check with Dr. Anderson before, because I'm sure with the new governor's mandate, there's going to be a lot of different, campus is going to look different next semester.
Yeah.
But I think I'm so proud, like I said before, I'm so proud of the students. We've done such a great job at maintaining a low case count. We've been able to be at school. Not many other schools can say that. I know I have friends from back home that go to other colleges and they've had online classes the whole year.
Yeah,
and so
exactly.
I'm just so proud of how students have, it was hard at first coming in from the summer to school, like not knowing what to expect, but we've worn our masks, we've distanced, we've quarantined when needed. And because of, students being responsible and being respectful, we're able to stay on campus and just enjoy college. I know that means a lot, especially for the freshmen that never had that college experience, because they're coming to college they missed their last semester of high school, they missed graduation, they missed prom, and so they just want something. And we've been able to give them that because we're responsible and we're respectful. So thank you, students, for that.
And I know you were saying earlier, right, you wouldn't have wanted to be president on a normal year.
Yeah.
This year has presented a lot of challenges, but it's also been a lot of blessings.
Yeah. Yeah, and the reason behind that is I was joking with Sandy earlier, because on a normal year, being SGA president is great and it's fun, and there's so many cool things you can do. But this year, I've grown so much of my leadership ability because of the challenges that we face as a school. And so I've had experiences this year that I would have never had previous years. Even for example, this year, Joel and I'm pretty sure we're the first SGA president and vice president to present to the Board of Trustees, which has never happened before. And I don't even think, if it had been a normal year, we'd have gotten that opportunity. Just because, what would we say to them on a normal year? But here, we were able to say, look, thank you for your leadership. Students need your leadership during this time, and we're excited to work with you. We asked them for a few things, and we were able to even successfully advise them to create a committee that advises the selection of the new president, and students will be involved in that. And that's something that I don't think, would have ever happened before unless our school had seen the certain situations that we've been through, and also that the student body had really needed good leadership during this time. So we made a lot of progress, and we're really excited to see where that goes.
That's awesome. And then my last question is, for a student maybe considering joining SGA, not quite sure exactly what they're getting into, but they want to make a difference on campus, what would you say to them to encourage them?
Yeah, I would say just know that the process works. It's really easy to get discouraged by the thought you have to write a whole bill, you have to go through this whole process, but it really does work, and it really is what makes SGA effective, is students that do see issues on campus, they do want to resolve them, they reach out to the right person, or they just have the initiative themselves to join SGA and make that happen themselves. I've seen so many incredible leaders already on campus, see an issue and attack it head on by writing a bill. And it's really encouraging to know that it's not just me and Joel that care about campus. There's a whole drove of students that really care about making change on campus. And even to the average student that might not think that, like I said before, it would fit into SGA, you do, and we want you to be a part of SGA. We want to welcome you, and we want to hear your ideas. One thing Joel and I hold fast to is an open door policy. So any student that has any issues or any ideas that they want to talk to us about, they're just welcome to come into the office and talk to us. My office door is almost always open unless I'm studying. But I would love to talk to students and hear what vision they have, and then connect them to the right people or get them started on the process of writing a bill. So students that might be intimidated by that process, it works. And I guess like it's easy to get intimidated, but also, you know, it's a challenge, right? And so if you really do love the idea that you want to get done, then like we would love to help you with that. And SGA isn't meant to be intimidating. And we want to kind of destroy that perception because we exist to serve students because we are students. And so we can't fully function unless we're fully representative. And so if you don't think you fit into mold, that's the reason why we want you, so that you can change that perception. So.
Wow, that's awesome. Well, there you have it. I've been here with Constance Schneider. Hope you enjoyed this interview and hope you learned something really valuable. So thanks again for coming in.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, all right, bye.